that I knew her in her previous life, um, which is crazy. Guys, let's bring her in. Mo Ivory, the Fulton County Commissioner for District 4. Mo, hello. Well, Commissioner Ivory,
Oh,
hello.
thank you so much, April. How are you, my sister?
I'm good, my sister. So I just have to put this out. So everyone has other lives and we have reiterations of ourselves and stuff. Mo and I used to, I used to be in radio. I started out in radio, but
Right.
Mo was actually in radio. She was a co-host of was it morning and afternoons or both or one, either
Yeah.
way.
So, yeah, a lot. I've been on mornings and afternoons.
Come on, Mo. I love
Yeah.
She's a radio woman after my heart, but she's also fighting for the people. My sister, thank you for joining us. You've seen
Yes.
Mo on television talking about what's happening in Fulton County. Mo, those ballots were sacred and secure.
Yes, they were. The way we do things in Fulton County,
So
sacred
what's
and secure.
what's the status now?
Yeah, so they came in on January 28th and they raided our elections office. They took 656 boxes on 24 pallets of ballots, registration tapes, voter, just information, and then absentee ballot envelopes, which is really the most critical thing that they took because that has people's personally identifiable information on it. So we do not know exactly where the ballots are because nobody is telling us anything. We hear, like you hear in the news or anywhere else, that maybe they're in Virginia. That day, we heard that they were going to Quantico. We can't confirm that because nobody has called us and said, "Oh, your ballots arrived and they're safe." So we are just hoping that they are preserving them. But as to the ballots, we have a digital backup copy of the ballots.
Oh,
So
oh,
the
good.
ballots, yeah. So the ballots don't contain any identifiable information. They literally are just a piece of paper that shows who somebody voted for, but no identification as to who that somebody was. But that doesn't matter because they are our documents and we should have them. He does not have the right to have those documents because of this thing called, the Constitution.
Yeah.
And so we are fighting in court to get those documents back. And that's where we are right now.
So I talked to a Fulton County resident, and I want to hear what you have to say on the other side of this. Take a look.
Okay.
Um, Before we go, I got two questions for you. What about Fulton County? Because that's people are calling that racist, and I know.
Well,
And
I'm
then
wondering if
also,
they got my ballot, but go ahead. I live in
they
Fulton
got your
County.
ballot, but it's not secure now.
No, I
Nothing is
know.
secure.
Right.
And that's what your father and the lieutenants, that was the second piece after the Civil Rights Act was passed into law. Voting rights. What do we say? I mean, what happens now? We are getting ready to see a drastic change in redistricting. Fulton County, they're trying to relitigate 2020. Why? It's just crazy.
Are we asking a rhetorical question because we all know why?
I know.
Concentration, power, authoritarianism for the sake of, continuing to feed and support, you know, you and your cronies. It's about power, control, and centralization. We know all that. We know this. We know what's happening.
Hmm. We know what's happening.
Yeah.
So what's happening?
I mean, Jim Crow, 2.0, 3.0, 4.0, what do you want to call it? You know what I mean? Dr. Bernice King is exactly right. She lives in Fulton County. And so I know she is concerned about it, as we all are, because it's not really about 2020. It never has been about 2020. Even if he would have, let's suppose in some fantasy world, he did win Georgia, which he did not. He still wouldn't have won the presidency. Right? Georgia wasn't the only state that he lost that had an impact on the electoral college numbers. So, I mean, the idea that he could do anything about 2020, we know that he can't. And so this is really about 2026. And so it's to stir up controversy, to make a manufactured crisis, to make people afraid to go to the polls. I mean, that's what this is about in
He
2026.
he has a limp, wet piece of spaghetti noodle throwing it at the wall to see if it will stick. And
That's
if it
right.
sticks here, it's going to go some other place. So here's my question, and I'm glad you said that you had a backup. But what if they do indeed try to challenge and say we did win? What happens there? How does this play out?
Well, they didn't win. So there's no, what they want to do is take these documents and then come back like, in 3 weeks from now and say like, oh my God, in Georgia, there was 700 and no, it's going to be because he needed 11,780 votes. So he's going to say, oh, there were 12,000 votes that aliens or that illegal immigrants voted illegally, and
And
I
dead
really
people
did
voted,
win,
and
Georgia.
dead
And
people
dead
voted.
people
Yeah.
voted, and people who were never on the rolls, who moved out of the state, and he's going to do all of that or whatever. And it's just a lie. Those ballots have been counted, recounted, audited again, recounted again, fought after in court in front of judges that were appointed by him. Never has there been found to be fraud in Fulton County elections. But here's the most important thing that people should understand. If he thinks that there was fraud in Fulton County elections in 2020, why doesn't he think there was fraud in 2024? Right. So in 2020, we were all fraudulent, right? But then in 2024, we cleaned ourselves up so wonderful and we were able to do a fantastic election. And then only 2 years later, oh, we're back to fraud again. Come on
Come
with
on,
that. I
Mo.
mean, come on with that. Like
Come on,
we're
Mo.
not. He really is taking Fulton County voters for stupid, for stuck on stupid, and we're not. Like Fulton County voters are used to voter suppression. When I worked at Stacey Abrams' campaign in 2018 and in 2022, we fought voter suppression. I mean, for God's sake, Governor Brian Kemp was the Secretary of State in 2018 over his own election. We know
Yeah.
what voter suppression looks like.
Yeah.
We know what SB 202 was meant to do in 2021, which was to take away all things, including water and food, so that people wouldn't want to stand in line. We know what this is. We are prepared in Fulton County. We know what to do. So he could bring it all he wants, but we are going to do exactly what we always do, which is show up at the polls, protect our neighbors, make a plan, and vote.
Clear conflict of interest. How do you run a race? You're in the race and you're over top of the whole race running against Stacey Abrams. We unfortunately we knew the outcome. And I'm not saying anything was wrong, but
Oh, no, it
he
was
was
wrong.
clear to be, he was, what did you say?
Oh, it was wrong. No, I'll say it. I'll say it.
Okay.
It was voter suppression. Oh, please. In 2018, I clearly believe that Stacey Abrams won the campaign. For governor. I totally believe that. And but okay, but you know what? Did we storm the Capitol? Did we tear down and
Nope,
have people
nope,
die?
nope,
No, right? We
nope.
came back and we tried again, right? And
So
we followed the rules.
I love the fact that you are taking your voice and making it power, using it for the good.
Thank you.
And you used it yesterday, well, this week on the Hill. Um, uh, Senator Padilla brought you in.
Yeah, it was yesterday.
Oh,
Yeah.
was that okay? Yeah. Talk
Yeah.
to us about that. Talk to us about your testimony and what happened.
Yeah, I was invited to the Senate Rules Committee to talk about the raid, and I was so honored that Senator Padilla and the whole Senate Rules Committee welcomed me there. And I was joined by my Georgia senators, Senator Ossoff and Senator Warnock, and I was so grateful to them for that, along with a bunch of other senators, Senator Adam Schiff, Senator Klobuchar, Senator Cortez Masto. I mean, there was a lot of senators there, and they wanted to really understand what happened that day at the raid. And I told them about what it felt like being on the inside, what the feeling was, and how it was very tense and just what went on. And it was just basically what I believe to be an illegal warrant issued based on no wrongdoing, in order to circumvent a civil process to look at the ballots that the Republican Party did not want to, one, be supervised to look at our ballots again, or to pay for copies that they would have had to pay for in order to get copies of those ballots. They wanted the originals and they didn't want to have to pay for them or to be supervised. So they used the criminal warrant procedure from the federal government to come in and swoop them up.
Is this about Fonnie Willis?
I mean, listen, it's about his disdain for Georgia, period, right? It's about how he knows that Fulton County is Black. It's about how
Mhm.
he knows that Fulton County shows up in Georgia. And when we do, we change Georgia elections. And he knows that if he comes into the middle of all of that and Georgia is disrupted, that it can then be duplicated in other cities. But we're not having it. So we call it out. We, like I said yesterday on the Hill, the South's got something to say, and we call it out. We don't hold our tongue. We're going to talk about it. We're going to tell people what they need to do, and we're going to mobilize in the streets. And that's what we do.
So I'm going to the chat. The chat is live. Kendra says our tax dollars are being used in service of Trump's ego! Exclamation point. Kendra says our tax dollars are being used again in service of Trump's ego. He just can't seem to accept the results, like a kid who loses a board game and immediately and loudly proclaims that the other kids cheated. That's a good analogy. Omar says SB 202 is a disgrace and Fulton County is
Yes.
43% Black, just like you
Yes.
said. Trajectory says abolish the Electoral College! Exclamation point. He only believes in the election if he wins.
That's exactly right. That's why he's not asking for 2024. But let me just say this about like how it really goes down to people's tax dollars, because people need to really understand like the challenges that we face in Fulton County. Like we obviously have election challenges, but we have a really big crisis going on in our Fulton County Jail, right? So when he comes into Fulton County and he does this kind of stuff, and then we have to go get a bigger legal team and we have to assemble a whole bunch of people to fight him, then we have to use your tax dollars for those legal costs. So then we can't use them for the jail. So it really matters. So if you have a relative in the Fulton County Jail right now, and we're using our tax dollars to pay for fighting against Donald Trump on a baseless, pointless, made up controversy, then we don't have those tax dollars to go in and repair the flood or to repair conditions or hire more staff, more detention officers. So it has a real impact, right? So elections matter. And when somebody says like, oh, my vote doesn't matter, now you see how much it does.
So let me say this. I'm going to add another one to the tax dollars. When I saw the men's Olympic hockey team flown over on a private, I'm like, what?
Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? What about Tulsi Gabbard just being in Georgia, period, on the day of the raid? Why did she need to get a private?
Yes,
why did she need to get a private plane paid by for us with a whole carload of black SUVs brought up to do nothing? I literally was staring at her. She was doing nothing.
See, that's what I need. Give me the tea on that, because I talked to Charles Coleman. We had Charles Coleman on, and I was very upset. I said, why did Tulsi Gabbard herself go for this? Was there something so secret and top secret that she herself needed to be there?
Not at all. I mean, we're talking about
her.
No, she didn't talk to hardly anybody. She had on that cap. She was just walking around acting important. And she didn't really play a role. She had no role in it. I mean, it was like I want you to think of there's no big mystery about what a elections warehouse looks like. It's a big old warehouse with cages, right? Okay, 2020 ballots there, 2024 ballots there. I mean, it's not some special top secret thing or anything, right? So you just go into the cage and, you get the documents, whatever. And she was just standing there watching the whole thing. And I thought to myself, what a waste of taxpayer dollars for her to be here doing nothing but getting ready to like how a father sends their child in to watch the siblings do what they do. And then he calls them back and he goes like, yes, daddy, they did what you said. That's what it was. And then she makes the phone call to him like, oh, they did what you said. Aren't you so happy? Tell them how great they are. I mean, it's just such. Yeah.
I can tell what you were saying.
Yes.
Mary says Trump is trying to federalize the election. He does want to make it a national thing. Right now, elections are governed by the state. What is your greatest fear with this? And do you think he's going to try to do that in Georgia, at least?
Oh, yeah, he's going to try to. But let me tell you what he's doing before he gets to the federal government. There's state election boards. And in Georgia, we have a Republican state election board, right? So what the state election board did in SB 202 back in 2021 was they gave themselves the power to appoint a elections superintendent to watch over elections.
Yeah.
So they took that power away from the Secretary of State. And why? Because then the Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, a Republican, said that the Fulton elections were perfect. There was no fraud, and he would not give Donald Trump those 11,780 votes. So what his own party did was come in behind him and say, you were a bad boy, Brad. Now you can't be in charge of elections anymore. We're going to pass some legislation that says that we appoint the person who is going to look over elections. So right now, we're just sitting here waiting for the state election board to say we have to take over elections. Well, and listen, that could happen.
Yeah, it could.
But we'll still be ready.
So here's what I want you to do. When you get the latest, the next piece that comes, please call your old radio friend April,
I
right?
will.
Mo, you are something. I am just so proud of
Thank you.
you.
Thank
It's
you.
a former Mo Ivory is former radio person, but honey, she is the Fulton County Commissioner for District 4 down in Georgia, fighting the good fight over those ballots in Fulton
Yes.
County. Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you, baby. I just want to tell everybody that I am also running to be the next chair of the Fulton County Commission because we need a stronger leader. Because we could have seen these things coming. We had a state case, we had a federal case that we already knew about. They were coming for us, and we weren't watching fast enough. So I want you to know that I am running because our leadership needs to be proactive instead of reactive. So I want you all to go to moivory.com. Follow me on Instagram at the Mo Ivory. And I hope that you can tell your friends in Fulton and you could support me because we need proactive leadership to deal with this chaos that we have going on in our country because we're strong in Fulton and we could be better.
Yeah, and we're unbreakable according to the NAACP. I
That's right.
appreciate you, Mo. Thank you
Thank
so
you, April.
much.
All right.
Wow, what a full show. I'm telling you, my heart is full, and I'm so thankful for these fighters, these people who are really trying to uphold democracy and humanity. That's the piece, humanity. What was right is no longer right in the eyes of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Something is wrong. Chaos. I'm not talking about get smart. I'm talking about true chaos that is impacting each and every one of us every day. Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley said the state of our union is traumatized. In 2025, at the end of 2025, my dear friend Susan Rice, former UN ambassador, Susan Rice, former domestic policy advisor, former national security advisor, said Trump last year was an abomination. It is getting worse, everyone. It's getting worse, and you cannot just stand by and let it happen. But with that said, I want to wrap this show up and tell you again, this is going to be the second time I've said this. Subscribe. Subscribe to the T, subscribe to me, subscribe to the Contrarian. We've got a lot of great programming that you're not going to see on other shows and other platforms. Come here. We're bringing you everything. And everybody who's on IG, on Instagram, come on over. Don't be afraid. It doesn't hurt. I promise. I came over. Come on over with me. And with that said, as I'm wrapping up the show, once I get off here tonight, I've got to run upstairs and pack my suitcase so I can fly to the West Coast and go to the 57th Annual Image Awards. Yes, we are still dealing with our image, positive images of people of color in the midst of all of this chaos. Donald Trump said Tuesday, DEI is dead. In your mind, it is. We are dealing with positivity and the positive images of people of color as he tries to profile and oppress and suppress and deport people. It is so important that we remember who we are. We are a nation of what? We are a nation of natives, immigrants, and slaves. I'm a descendant of a slave, and this descendant of a slave is going to fly over to the West Coast to see the positive images of our people. That's what brings me joy. My radical joy, Black girl joy, and that radical joy, it spells resistance. See, Rachel, I got it in there. It spells resistance. And with that said, I want to bring you a piece. I'm ending the show bringing you a piece that kind of symbolizes Black History Month, but more importantly, it symbolizes the importance of knowing the history of an oppressed people. Guys, have a wonderful rest of your evening, a great week. I will see you soon. Guys, roll the tape.
President Trump signed an executive order aimed at what he calls restoring truth and sanity to American history. He's ordering the Smithsonian to promote American greatness and threatens funding for any of the museums that have anti-American exhibits.
Trump calls it restoring truth and sanity to American history. But that's a lie. Trump is attempting to erase history, Black history, American history, in order to sanitize the truth and perpetuate white supremacy. In the face of Trump erasing Black history, it feels important to go to the National Museum of African American History and Culture to preserve the truth in defiance of Trump's sanitation. While walking through the museum, you're immediately confronted with our complicated past. The harsh truth that we were brought here on slave ships, that our founding fathers were slave owners, that some white Americans banded together and used violence to suppress us and our right to vote, that the great Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated for speaking truth to power. This history of Black Americans is harsh but important, and we cannot erase this. Somehow, in spite of the obstacles, Black culture has thrived. Taking a walk around the museum, you're reminded of the accomplishments of creating historically Black colleges and universities in the face of slavery and segregation, of thriving as farmers when the deck was stacked against them, of fighting back against prejudice time and time again.
Somewhere I read that the greatness of America is the right to protest far right.
Of standing strong and practicing radical joy despite these trials. And while the struggle continues, so does our joy. Morgan State Fair, Morgan, we love thee. I want to end with a quote from the great Dr. Bernice King, daughter of the late civil rights leader, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
Evil is always going to be present. It's always going to operate through different vessels in every season, in every generation. And that's why my mother was so brilliant when she said struggle is a never, keyword, underline, bold, ending process. Freedom is never really won. You earn it and win it in every generation.